Howdy folks, Rudrose here, and today we'll be talking about quite a few things in Lorcana. I usually like to have a very focused topic for a video because that's what old YouTube and the algorithm likes, but today my thoughts might be a little more all over, so I apologize for that up front if that's not your thing, but if you're into kind of a stream of consciousness of just random Disney Lorcana thoughts, then stick around. This is going to be for you. Feel free to put it on in the background, podcast style, relax, and enjoy. So, Speci, or Curley Cards, as his channel is officially called, put a video out about a week ago now called Disney Lorcana Needs a Change. It's a very good video, and I wanted to use it as the basis for this video. It will essentially be kind of a response. I'm not going to play it here for you, but if you haven't seen it, pause this video right now, open it up in another tab, window, go watch it. I'll put a link in the description below. But I think he did a very good job, as he always does. You know, I like the way he communicates his thoughts, and he is very, very polite about it. I'm probably a little bit meaner and harsher, but yeah, so I just wanted to use this as kind of a jumping off point to talk about a lot of things in Lorcana, because it's 2026, and we have the Richmond DLC coming up this weekend, and I've got some thoughts on that and some of the things they've talked about there too. So first, we'll just kind of respond to his video, and we'll see where it goes from here. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. So one of the first things he talks about in this video is, why do you go to locals? He actually asks the viewer that question, hey, why do you go to locals? And he says, as far as I can tell, there's only two reasons. One, you just want to play the card game, or two, you want to hang out with the community. You have people there you like. And he's absolutely right, because he talks about the lack of prizes that locals have. And yes, there are just no prizes for locals. As a matter of fact, they have even taken away... We'll switch to this camera so you can see it. I have a cork board back there with all the pins. The pins were a good reason for me to go to locals. They're taking the pins away. They don't have them anymore. They're going to finish out the ink color pairings, which you can kind of see back there on that upper part of the wall, but that's where my ink pins are. So I still have to get the ruby one from the set, and then they'll do sapphire steel. But then they're done. They're taken away. And the pins were something that I genuinely enjoyed getting and looking forward to. And there was enough to collect that it made me want to go every week. But they've announced they're done with the pins. After they finish the ink color ones, they're not going to do them anymore. Like, that's such a bummer. So you don't have the pins. The promo cards you get are terrible, and they're the exact same version of the cards you could pull from a pack. Yeah, technically they have like the promo symbol on the bottom of them, but they're not unique. It's not like you get some crazy alternate artwork. Yeah, what you get are cards like this. I don't know how well you can see them. Sorry, they're all foil, like with the shine. Hey, there's Lady. Hey, there's Kronk. But this isn't unique artwork. You just get them, and they've got the little foil stamp down here in the bottom. So, and most of these cards aren't very good. Like, okay, Lady's okay in a deck. Strength of a Raging Fire was the promo, of course, everybody wanted, because it was actually a usable, playable card. But this isn't worth going for. And I don't know how your locals work. The ones I go to usually will only hand these out. You know, some of them will do, you get one card every time you show up. Some of them will do, well, you get one of each, but you have to wait. It's every 4 weeks. Nonetheless, I think he's 100% right that there needs to be more for locals. And I know Riftbound and Star Wars Unlimited, he mentioned those in the videos, do have their own forms of pricing. They have these prize packs that you can only get to locals. They encourage you to show up. And the other thing to get is to complete your collection. And this is what my Whispers in the Well collection looks like right now. And this is after opening 2 boxes, a trove, and however many random packs I've gotten. Well, the problem is, once again, Disney Lorcana packs are so terrible to open that even getting packs on a weekly basis don't matter because of all this stupid rare slot, this third rarity slot. They need to get rid of this and just have super rares and legends. Legendaries, because most of this is garbage. Most of these cards are unplayable. They're not useful. And they just eat up rare slots you could have. Look at how many of these I haven't even pulled a single copy of. Coldstone, Duckburg, what else? Can't hold it back anymore. You can see all the zeros. There's so many of these that I have barely pulled any copies of, or one copy. This is just in the rares. Then you've got the super rares. You know, some of them, of course, you end up pulling a ton of a few and then none of the others. And then legendary. I don't have a full play set of legendaries. Or some legendaries. Have I pulled at least one of each? I have at least one of each. I got very lucky with the 2 Cinderellas, and someone traded me a third. But nonetheless, so the problem is, that's kind of the only other incentive to go to locals, right? Well, try to get the cards you're missing. But since what you open in a pack can be garbage, can be your 5th copy of Magicka Dispel that you don't need, or your 5th copy of Goldio Guilt that you don't need. The packs aren't even worth it. Luckily, probably one of the only things that got me back to this store that I was going to is I wasn't even going to go anymore, but they finally allowed store credit. So now you can get store credit on packs, which is what I do, because it's not worth it to open packs unless you get absurdly lucky and hit your Demona or your Goliath or your Hades or Cindy, whatever that super rare card is you might be looking for. They're just not worth opening. So thank goodness for store credit, because that's the only reason I'm going. So yeah, I fully agree with them that there's not a whole lot of incentive to go to locals right now. Now, the next thing he talks about is that there's no connection between local leagues as well as the higher tier events, which is essentially the challenges. And I loved his idea of, hey, what if, if you win your local league for whatever it was, 3 months straight, or maybe you win a set championship, or however they want to actually set it up, that then you are guaranteed a chance, or you are guaranteed a ticket spot for a future challenge of your choice. So you could say, hey, I want to get a ticket to Indianapolis, and they have to make sure you get a ticket to that. I love that idea. It gives it more incentive to play, makes the pressure higher, which maybe you don't always want that, but it gives you, again, more incentive to do that, and it feels like what you're doing on a weekly basis is contributing to something larger instead of just, well, nothing, which is what it does right now. Now, yes, that will probably make more people come out to set championships, and they might be, sweatier and people trying a lot harder, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, and I think the trade-off for that would ultimately be worth any of the downsides of that. Hey, because these are the people who should be getting tickets. It should be the people who go to locals week in and week out. But what they really need to do is they need to have another level of competition between set championships and challenges. Currently, there's only set championships, which are so frequent. There's so many of them in your area that it kind of doesn't matter. Like, it's not like, wow, that one set championship. And then the extreme other end of this spectrum is the challenges. These things that there's only 3 of in the entire season, and they're super hard to get tickets for, and you have to travel for them. They need in-between regional events. They need an event. So, I'm in the Midwest. I'm in St. Louis. They need an event, and they need to region lock it. Hey, this is the Midwest event. This is the St. Louis event. And you have to live in Missouri, Illinois, Kansas, whatever, to come to this event. Like, you cannot you don't want, someone flying out from California to take a spot. And yeah, that's a regional event. And just like they would have their own regional events, the California people can go to the one in California. And maybe what's on the line is a spot to Continentals or whatever you feel is the appropriate prize, but there needs to be just some middle tier event. And so many other card games do this. And the fact that Lorcana just has nothing on the way up to a challenge is really hurting the game. The next thing he brings up is the amount of challenges, which this is kind of beating a dead horse, but it's still worth remembering. Like, we shouldn't ever let them off the hook for this. There are only 3 DLCs in North America. There were 6 last year. They have cut it in half. That's unacceptable. I'm sorry, you can't go backwards. Like, and some people have said, well, maybe they just put too much out of the gate in season 1. Put too many DLCs, the pins for the local leagues, the double playmat for set championships, because that's another thing we've lost. And maybe that's fair, but that's on them. Like, I'm sorry, that's the way the world works, and that's how people works, is that you have to at least meet the standard. Like, if season 2 had been exactly the same as season 1, same, you get double playmats for set championships, there's 6 more DLCs, they're even in the same 6 cities. Like, don't get me wrong, there would have been some complaining, and rightfully so, because it's the exact same and people expect you to build, but I think overall people would have been satisfied with it. Yeah, it's a shame we didn't get more, but at least we got what we already got. To lose what we got, that's crazy. And Speci makes such a good point in this video that I hadn't honestly considered until he said it, is that, so Whispers in the Well is Virginia here, right? And this talks about, when he talks about the Infinity format and how the last one, Indy, is going to be Infinity format. That means Core Constructed DLC in 2006 is Richmond, which is this weekend. That's it. And that's in January. Then we have NA Continentals will be at the end of August. So for the rest of the year, and the year has just started, there will be one DLC in Core Constructed format. 1. That is insane. What's going to happen in season 3? Well, we don't know, because who knows when that'll be announced. They would still have to do Worlds sometimes after this, right? Like, they're not going to do this, have Worlds in September, and then the next season starts up in October. It probably won't be till 2027. So for 2026, there is a single DLC for the Core Constructed format. That is bananas. And I hadn't really thought about it that way until he said it in the video. And that's just baffling. That is so baffling. I just don't understand how they think that's okay. And this is an important point I've wanted to make, because some people have like, well, Season 3 is going to be amazing. Season 3 is going to be really good. Well, here's the problem with that. Even if Season 3 is incredible, that doesn't change the fact that Season 2 right now sucks, and that the game is losing players and hemorrhaging players right now in Season 2. Now, if you have an amazing Season 3, like, and think about that. Think about what that would really entail. How many DLCs need to be in Season 3? 6, back to what we were? Is that going to be enough? What about 10? What about 20? What about 15? How many would you need to go, okay, this is a good job? Not that you're satisfied that it's a good job, but even if they do that, whatever number you come up with, there's 15 DLCs in every single region. Okay. Will that bring back the people who have already left in Season 2? It might bring back some of them, maybe people who are kind of leaving reluctantly and are like waiting for that good news, but he makes the point in the video, the TCG space is so crowded right now with some really good games out there. I've played a lot of these games. A lot of them are really, really good. Like, people won't always want to put Lorcana on this pedestal, and I enjoy the game. Obviously, I sit here and play it. But it is not just this unique game where nothing else is like it. No, there's plenty of other games like it. And there are plenty of people who will leave due to this awful Season 2 that are not going to come back. And another point he made on that I do want to piggyback, where with the whole, okay, well, Core Constructed, it's only this one Richmond. What are we playing for? Like, genuinely. So I was, as much as I hated rotation, and I still hate rotation, I played during the Fabled meta a lot, even though I was bored and I thought it was terrible and I was miserable, but because I was going to Milwaukee, because I needed to practice for Milwaukee. So week in and week out, I was practicing and I was playing, even if I wasn't really into the game. Well, now that Milwaukee has passed, I definitely have this feeling of, well, what am I playing for? I'm not going to Richmond. I would like to go to Indianapolis if it works out, because it's relatively close to St. Louis, but this is Infinity format. I mean, genuinely, unless I just want to do it for fun, do I have a reason to play Core Constructed? If my goal is to hopefully place well at one of these DLCs, maybe get an invite to Continentals, what reason do I have to play Core Constructed? I'm not going to Richmond. Set championships aren't going to get me there. If anything, I need to switch and start practicing Infinity again. Like, that's just insane that for the rest of this year, other than for the love of it, I don't have a reason to practice Core Constructed. Like, that is crazy. And he makes a fantastic point, too, saying the Infinity DLC should have been a bonus. It should not have replaced the Core Constructed. And, we just needed more of these. We needed, at minimum, to keep the 6 from last year and then maybe have a bonus Infinity one. Instead, this Infinity one is eating into the Core Constructed one. All right, this next point completely goes in on Infinity and rotation, and I have so many thoughts about this. If you watch my channel for any amount of time, you know I hate rotation, and I think it was an absolutely terrible idea, and I stand by that. I think it's probably one of the worst decisions they've made, and it has killed a lot of the interest in the game for me. They had the Infinity weekend in December, which from what I can tell was just a complete dud. There were so many places that didn't even fire, people didn't show up for. A lot of places didn't even have the cards. They didn't get the cards on time. Why was it a complete dud? Well, there's a lot of reasons we can speculate on. Of course, there's no hard data. One, I think Infinity format is a joke. And I said this when rotation was announced, that you're splitting the player base. Again, you've got a DLC coming up here in Richmond. Why do you want to stop doing that to go play a format that isn't supported? That other than this one weekend, at least around here, no one locally plays it. And a few of our local shops tried to get it to fire, but no one would show up for it. Because again, when we were all practicing for Milwaukee, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time to practice this format that we can't do anything with, that doesn't lead to anything else. Then the cards you get is a whole new world. Here's the play set I was able to get, and I have to thank my girlfriend for this. I wasn't able to make it to Infinity Weekend because it was in the middle of the holidays, so I was super busy. I had no time to go for it. But so you get this whole new world card, which beautiful art. Yeah, I love the art. You can't play this card anymore. What value does this card have for me? You've given me a card that in my active weekly Lorcana playing experience, I cannot use this. Okay, oh, well, you can use it in Infinity. Okay, that doesn't help me when no one's playing Infinity around here. The next DLC for Infinity is until June. Infinity format itself around here was absolutely dominated by blue-gray. Oh, really? Oh, you mean the deck that was so absurdly broken that you had to ban your first ban, Flaversham and Fortisphere, and then you immediately unbanned them? One set later, you had Reign of Jafar and you just let him go again? You mean that deck was still really strong? I can't believe it. What an insane decision. Let's just unban the thing we just banned. It'll be fine now. Like, it's a joke. It's just such a joke. Speaking of, if you like jokes, check out my video on Fabled as a joke, which I'll put the link for that down in the description below too, where I just completely rip into that set and just what What an insult it was, and Speci touches on this too. I mean, rotation was terrible. They brought back so many boring vanilla cards that weren't good sets ago, and they thought they would be good now. The cards they chose were a joke. The lack of new artwork they chose for all these returning cards was a joke. You can really hear all my thoughts in that video. But then to add insult to injury, we get Whispers in the Well, set 10, which was clearly supposed to be the Halloween theme set with all the spooky stuff in it from, you know, what is this called? Sleepy Hollow or Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Ichabod Crane. I don't remember what the exact Disney version is called. Sleepy Hollow, whatever you want to call it. You get all this Halloween themed stuff. Winter Spell clearly has a Christmas vibe to it, which will be after Christmas because Fabled ruined all of this. And then to add insult to injury, you get this. Here's a side-by-side of just some of the cards that were immediately power crept one set later. Oh, who is this? Why, this is Verana from set 9. This is a set 9 Fabled. And then one set later, Whispers in the Well, they release Hook Hand. Same cost, one more strength, same lore, no effect. There is no reason to play Verana over Hook Hand. You will always play Hook Hand. Cauldronborn versus Sven. Sven, set 9 card. Originally set 1. They brought it back for set 9 to then make Cauldronborn one set later. Same thing, 5 cost, 1 extra strength. Everything else is the same. No reason to play Sven anymore. Terran. All those 5 cost vanillas, like Verana, like Li Sheng here, they immediately power crept all these. Here's you have Terran from the Black Cauldron. 5/5, 2 lore, 5 cost. So same as these vanillas. Oh, except he has text. He has support and additional text. Pluto, Steel Champion. Same cost, same stats. Has actual pretty good text for a steel card. Scuttle, 5 cost, 5/5, 2 lore. Oh, except he at least has ward. I mean, I'm not saying these are exciting. I do like Pluto, but like they just straight power crept all these cards that they brought back. Again, power creeping Sven 9 sets later. Okay, that's one thing. I understand trying to rebalance the power of the game. Bringing him back, saying this card is worth returning to the game to immediately make him null and void a set later? What on earth are you doing? No good designer would consciously make this decision and say, yes, this is good design for the game. This is healthy. Maui's Place of Exile. Characters gain resist +1 while here. Cost 2, 5 health, 1 to move. Well, that looks familiar. Oh, that's because one set later, Castle Wyvern. 2 cost, 1 to move, 5 health. Characters gain Challenger +1 and resist +1 while they're here. Oh, and 1 lore, which Maui's Place of Exile. So, and again, it's one thing to say, yeah, in set 3, no one really played this card. Let's rebalance it. That's totally fine. That is good design. But to bring this back in set 9, to then one set later say, okay, well, here's just the superior version, it's insulting. It's infuriating. I don't understand this decision. I do not understand the decision to bring back so many cards, bad cards at that, and then immediately change them one set later. What are you doing? You know, I've had some people say, well, why, you know, don't you love Infinity format? You're always saying you want to play Ruby Amethyst. It's like, no, I don't love Infinity format. I like the format pre-rotation. If I were in control of Ravensburger, I would do this effective probably at the start of set 11 because you messed up. I would cancel the rotation and I would come out, hey, we messed up. I would completely own it. I said, we thought it would be a good decision. We were trying to copy Magic, whatever it was, but we made a terrible blunder. It's just made the game worse. So effective immediately, rotation is killed. All decks are now legal. However, because pre-rotation, yes, the game was also very stale and had a lot of issue decks. Here is an active ban list, and we'll go through, okay, Steel Song, here are the cards that are banned from that. Ruby Sapphire, here are the cards that are banned from that. Ruby Amethyst, if you feel that's necessary. Of course, I'm biased because that was my favorite deck. But I understand the argument for some of the cards in there being banned. Discard, you know, Diablo, whatever your choice is, here's an active ban list, and this will be updated regularly, and not any of this like, we'll update it once a year at the start of the year. No, if something's a problem, like they did with Flowersham and Fortisphere, we're going to ban it right there. Bucky was a problem. They didn't wait till set 8. They didn't say, well, you'll get rotated in 4 sets, so who cares? Deal with it then. No, they fixed it right then and there, and that's what any good card game should do. One more thing I do want to give them some slight praise on the DLC for is that they did listen to some feedback for Richmond. They have actually changed some of the details for Richmond. They are now adding side events on Friday. They're going to change the prize wall a bit. They've restructured it, so they did at least listen to the feedback from Milwaukee and have changed it. Now, it sucks for me and for everyone else who went to Milwaukee and could only go to Milwaukee because we now get to miss out on all that, and it's still just baffling. Like, how did you not? Oh, we didn't realize people wanted side events on Friday. You didn't? How did you not know that? I can understand from Atlanta last year because that was their very first time doing it. Okay, it's your very first time out of the gate. You're not going to know everything. But you knew all this from last season, and then they just regress. So, again, I am truly happy for the people going to Richmond that hopefully they will now get a better experience. But it's also kind of sour grapes for the rest of us who can't go and who my only one was Milwaukee. Oh, well, sucks to be me. Wish I'd gotten to be a part of that. Now, the next thing he touches on is arguably one of the most important things for Lorcana, and it's about deck identity. And I have been screaming this forever. This is, you could make a very solid argument that this is one of the biggest things they have failed at as card game designers, is deck identity. And in particular, their inability to create decks around Disney franchises. I mean, this is a game all for people who love Disney, right? So what's probably one of the most common things you would think of when someone comes into the card game? Hey, what's your favorite Disney movie? Oh, well, mine is The Little Mermaid, or mine is Nightmare Before Christmas, Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King. Oh, okay, well, I should be able to hand you a Lion King deck. I should be able to come here on Dreamborn, franchise The Lion King, and give you a deck that is built with only Lion King characters. Oh boy, there's Simba. Oh, there's Scar. Oh, there's Nala. Oh, King. There's a Be Prepared effect. There's a It Means No Worries effect. You should be able to make a good, strong deck that is based on The Lion King, that is based on Hercules, that is based on Mulan. That just seems like a no-brainer. And the fact that 10 sets in, they haven't even gotten close to this is bonkers. Speci mentions the closest they've come to this is Lady and the Tramp, and that's, I think, this is one of the few things I kind of disagree with him on, that I don't think anyone thinks of this deck as Lady and the Tramp. They call it dogs, but here's the cards that see play. Lady and Tramp, Lady and Tramp, Lady and Tramp. Does Jacques see play? No. Jim Deere, Darling Deer, even this upgraded Tramp, Peg, Trusty, Only So Much Room. It's not that, like, oh, all the Lady and the Tramp cards are good. It's just that these particular cards actually have effects that make a deck competitive. This Lady is in all the aggro decks, not because, oh, it's a dog card or because it has synergy with the aggro. No, just because it plays a character for free, because it vomits another cheap character into play. So, like, of course that's going to see play. But yes, this is the closest thing they've got, and even this is very loosely in there. Versus something like, and I have to show you from this game, this is the Final Fantasy trading card game. This is a starter deck, and this is one of the things Speci mentions is about how the starter decks in Lorcana are so bad, and they are. So, these are all characters from the game Final Fantasy VII. They are all part of a team called Avalanche Operative. You see how in Lorcana next to the ink symbol, they have, I don't even remember what this is called. Is it a tag, a classification? I think there is some term for it. Okay, so this Darling Deer, Storyborn Ally, Lady Storyborn Hero. Well, I often call these jobs because in the Final Fantasy game, that's what they were referred to. You can see next to where it says forward here on Biggs, it says Avalanche Operative. That's his job. Now, you don't have to know the rules of this game to understand this text. If you control a job Avalanche Operative, the cost required to cast him is by 2. So essentially he costs 1 instead of 3. Their cost is in the upper left-hand corner, just like Lorcana. All the Avalanche Operatives have this text. So when you play them all together, they all get cheaper. And then every single one of these, Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, have a party attack. So in that game, you can team people up to attack together. And they all have, hey, when you party attack, break a character 4 or less. When you party attack, draw a card, can't be broken. When you party attack, find Cloud, play Cloud. And these are strong effects, but they only work with other Avalanche Operatives. You can't just jam this anywhere. To compare this to Lorcana, this would be the equivalent of like, hey, when Tramp and Lady quest together, you get this specific effect. Or when Mushu and Li Sheng challenge together, you get this specific effect. And they work so well together. And then Barrett, if you've played the game, you know, he's the team leader. He gives them all haste. So he lets them all attack the turn they come out. So get that. Oh my goodness, is this actual design? They're cheaper when they play together. They have an effect when they attack. And their leader gives them the ability to attack the turn you play them. Also, Barrett has a second effect, which essentially says you swap a card in your hand from one in your discard as long as it's an Avalanche Operative. So again, as the leader, he can keep pulling them back over and over again. And then Cloud, as the mercenary, revives one of them back onto the field, but in order for him to do that, you have to have a job Avalanche Operative. You can't just play him willy-nilly. This was a starter deck. The Jesse, Biggs, Wedge, this other Barrett, this all came in the starter deck. Yes, to make it optimal, you had to pull the Barrett and the Cloud, which weren't or the Cloud was in the starter as well. The Barret and the Tifa, which were in the set before, which that was a strange decision. But nonetheless, this was a strong competitive starter deck. When it came out, it was one of the strongest decks in the game. But look how specialized it is. It can be strong because you can't just jam these anywhere. You couldn't just put these in any generic Earth deck, or to put that in Lorcana terms, you couldn't just slam those in any purple deck, in any blue deck. And that's the problem we see right now, right? Look at all the purple decks. What do they consist of? They consist of the best purple cards. Some random Amethyst Steel I pulled off of Ink decks. Look at the cards in this deck. Where is the synergy? Does Hook have any synergy with any of these other cards? No. Does Palace Guard? No. Does Calhoun, Black Heron, Doc, Cheshire Cat, Giant Cobra, Lexington? Does Lexington require the other gargoyles to be there? No, not at all. Belle, Elsa? Hey, these cards are all just individually good, which is what every good deck in Lorcana is. It's just a pile of good cards. They have no synergy together. The only synergy in this deck, as much as people gave hate to this card, is Dumbo. Dumbo at least does encourage you to play evasives. It's why we saw last set people running like the 1-cost Happy, because hey, it's synergized with Dumbo, running the 2-cost Jafar that gets evasive on your turn, the Dragon Genie, because there was at least some synergy there with Dumbo. But that synergy isn't because they're all Dumbo characters or because they're all circus, classification circus card. It was because they are all just evasives. There's just a generically strong keyword of evasive. They have tried to do this with some things. You have this hero classification. There's a few princess decks, but they're all so few and far between, and none of them have been competitive because they're all terrible. The closest thing they ever had was Brooms, because they actually gave it its own legendary in Yen Sid, who doesn't type up when you say Broom, because that's not his characteristic. But even this, they tried it from one set. It was okay. It wasn't even super competitive. It was okay. And then they just completely gave up on it. They didn't add a single card for it. These are all set 1 through 4 cards, which also mean it got banished with rotation. And you couldn't even play this deck that wasn't even fully there, and you couldn't even play it. I still want to make a deck tech on this, and I'm hoping to have it out somewhat soon, but I made a detectives list this set because I wanted to try it out. And this deck is actually a little better than I thought, mainly due to the power of this Judy Hopps. However, if you look through the detectives, which this is a whole theme for this set, Whispers in the Well, right? Well, first of all, they're in several different ink colors. They're in Steel, Sapphire, Amber, and there's a single one in Ruby. So you got to pick your color. Obviously, you pretty much have to do Sapphire because that's the predominant one. But if you look at all these detectives, and I'll go into this too on the video, most of these don't do anything. And they don't have synergy with other detectives other than the Judy Hopps. Okay, play her. If you have another detective in play, you can put an item. Well, that's way too specific, which is why this seems... But at least there's an idea here. But look at this detective. What does she have? She just has support. No text. This one actually works with detectives. Alert and resist. Oh, awesome. What about this one? No, it has no synergy with detectives. It's just its own card. This is the card that even makes the deck possible because it actually looks for detectives. But Mickey, I mean, solid card in his own right, even though we don't need it with Sale and Tipo anymore, but it's just a detective. This, when you play this character, chosen detective character gains, okay, there's some synergy there. Here, when you play a detective, resist +1. When you play this character, gains alert. This one just has bodyguard. This is just, again, these don't need to be detectives. They're generic. This is just a generic challenger. They have no... Nick Wilde actually has, okay, when a detective specifically banishes a character in a challenge, draw a card. So they have a few ideas. Okay, this is what we need more of. We need more stuff like these Avalanche operatives. Hey, when you play detectives, how about a 1-cost detective or a 2-cost detective that's a 1/1 but has the text? For every detective in play, gain 1 strength and 1 willpower, and maybe even 1 lore, or maybe an extra keyword, rush, and then it becomes evasive, and then it becomes whatever else. Like, give me a payoff for these cards. The only payoff is that Judy can just keep drawing and drawing and drawing them, but so many of these detectives don't do anything. Nothing about them screams detective. Like, and that's what a good deck should be. Hey, for every detective you have, do this. And again, they've gotten close. The detectives are at least an idea. There was at least an idea with the Brooms, with the Yen Sid, with the Mickey Mouse. Oh, for all the Brooms you have in play, let's do this. They got their own location, which was so cool. So again, they had the idea, and I have praised Ravensburger for this in the past, that they often actually have good ideas, but their execution and implementing them was terrible. But even when this came out in set 4 at its peak, it was just okay. It was just an okay day. It needed more support, and they should have seen that and said, okay, let's give it more. Instead, they just stopped entirely. And then you still had awful Brooms like these, which are like This is a 5-cost uninkable. And why? Let's transition that into the next point. And Speci touched on this when he talked about deck identity. The problem with Lorcana is that there are no restrictions. The game is far too open. It needs restrictions. Restrictions are interesting. Look at these Avalanche operatives from earlier. Every single line of text on these cards says job Avalanche operative, job Avalanche operative. What does that mean? It means you cannot just jam this in any deck that is yellow or this is the earth element, because this is a dead card. If you don't have any Avalanche operatives, he's a 3/7. A 3 cost 7,000 power, which in Lorcana terms is this. He's just a generic 3 cost 3/3 no text. That's terrible in modern Final Fantasy. But when you put very specific text on them, you can make it, hey, it's actually kind of overtuned for its cost, but that's okay because it only works when you pair it with the other stuff. Why is this magic broom an uninkable? Because for some reason they overvalue the rush keyword, but because with Lorcana, with no restrictions, you can jam this broom anywhere. Whereas what you could have added was text that says, hey, he's actually a 4-cost inkable, make him a 5/5, make him, holy cow, he's overstated, but it has the text. All of its text relies on there being another broom in play. Hey, if you control another broom or 2 other brooms, whatever you think is balanced, then it gains rush, then it gains all its effects. But Lorcana doesn't have that. It doesn't have restrictions, so you get this stuff. You get, well, okay, what's the new good Amethyst card? Oh, Hades and Demona? Yeah, we'll go ahead and jam those in there. And I have talked about this with Lorcana for a long time, that because the ink is so forgiving, that you're going to always have this problem. Look at a card from Magic the Gathering. This is called Depopulate. This is essentially Be Prepared. Destroys all the creatures on the board. But if you look at this mana cost, this costs 4 mana, but 2 of the mana must be white or plains or however you want to refer to it. So think of in Lorcana, when you inked a card, instead of just inking this broom and it's 1 ink, what if it's 1 amethyst ink? And then to use a card like Yen Sid, he requires 2, not just ink of anything, amethyst ink. So now you have to really think about the amount of ink you put in a deck. Final Fantasy has this as well. This earth element, as you can see, some of them like Tifa here has fire and earth. You have to pay both a fire and an earth in order to bring her out to the field. So there's a restriction. You can't just jam them anywhere. And as long as Lorcana has this super open ink, well, that's exactly what's going to happen, because there's no restraints. There's no reason to not just jam the best of every color in here. The only restraint is you can't have more than 2 pairings. So now, is that something they're ever going to change? I don't know, and maybe they won't, and there's an argument maybe they shouldn't, but I think you're going to keep having this issue. And I think one of the only ways to alleviate this issue is to go heavy in on the franchises and the themes, and for the love of God, give me the ability to tell someone, oh, you love Peter Pan? Here's the Peter Pan deck, full of all the characters you like, and it's solid. It doesn't have to be the best deck in the format, but it's solid, and it's good. Because what we have right now is terrible and unplayable, and he also mentions how the starter decks are bad, and he's 100% right on that. So, those are the main things I wanted to comment on his video. I pretty much agree with it overall, and again, he does a very good job of presenting it. Please go watch it if for some reason you haven't already. Some final thoughts I want to make was that I delayed making this video for so long. I've wanted to make it for a while now, and I kept delaying it because some of my passion is just gone. I'm just not enjoying the game the way I used to because I miss the pre-rotation cards. And yes, again, there's broken stuff in there, and there was stuff that needed to be banned. The solution was not to rip out half the cards in the game. You know what I miss? I miss this. I miss Ruby and Amethyst. And I was thinking about the other day, like modern Lorcana or plain Lorcana in set 9 and 10, it just feels so boring because there's no threat of a board wipe unless you're specifically going against, you know, green-blue. And so you just jam all these cards out, and the curve is so you 1, then you 2, and you 3. And I was thinking about this deck, and probably part of the reason I loved it so much is there were so many things I could do on my turn 3. So on my turn 3, I could have my crab, buff a Cusco, take something out. I could bounce something. I could bounce my 1-drop with Snake, replay it. I could bounce something with Fox rush in. I could just drop Sisu to try to build up some lore. I could just drop a Brawl to take something of theirs out. I could sing Friends on the other side. I could hard cast it. I couldn't sing it, obviously, unless I had a singer on board already. Drop my Fishhook. I could set up the library for that triple 1-drop I went on turns 1 and 2, and then move them in there on the next turn. Like, the variety was insane. I had so many options. And Ruby Amethyst could be built in many different ways. There was the evasive version. There was a really heavy control version. Like, the amount of variety I could do on my turn 3 versus what did all these decks do last set for Milwaukee? And this, okay, you do your 1-drop, and then your 2-drop, and then your 3-drop. And ideally, then you sing Strength of a Raging Fire on with your 3-drop on turn 4 after you've dropped your Dumbo or your Genie or Iago over and over and over again. What do you do if you're playing Blurple? Maybe you drop the 1-drop, maybe you just skip that, you ramp on 2, Tipo Sail, and then you play your 4-drop. Genie, Iago, Mim, bounce your 1-drop, whatever your choice of 4-drop is. 5, you play Elsa. Like, of course that all felt stale and familiar, because it is. And again, as I touched on earlier, you know, a card like Sail. Sail actually maybe could have been an okay card if there were more restrictions on it. If there was such a thing as Sapphire Ink, and you have to spend 2 Sapphire Ink to play Sail. So now, if you really want to see that ramp on turn 2, you need to ink your Basil turn 1, and then you need to ink another Sapphire card to be able to fire the Sail off. Otherwise, if you had a Sapphire and then an Amethyst, you can't fire the Sail off. But these decks are they're just going to be constantly homogenized and optimized. Well, there's do nothing but play the best cards in this color. One final thing I'll touch on is that he did mention maybe an online client coming, and of course that could do wonders for the game, but I'm sorry, I have no faith in that. Like, we have seen no signs of that. They've not talked about it. Someone said, oh, there was a job posting on LinkedIn, you know, for a develop. Okay, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't give us a timeline. And have you seen how Ravensburger handles this stuff? Like, it could be years before that ever happens, if it ever happens, and maybe most of the player base is gone by then. So I'm not like counting on that. Like, well, even if it's rough right now, that online client, that's going to save us. And speaking of online clients, the game lost a lot since it lost Pixelborn. Pixelborn carried the game for those first few sets, especially when you couldn't find any product. Like, first chapter, would Lorcana have had the good start it had if Pixelborn wasn't around from the play side? Of course, the collectors have still have wanted to collect it, but from a play perspective, that's the only thing that kept me in it. I was probably just going to drop it because I couldn't find product, and but I can play it online, I can test it for free. Like, yeah, the game's way worse off since losing Pixelborn. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I'm tired. I've ranted long enough. Thank you if you've stuck with this to the end. I appreciate it. Told you this would be kind of long-winded and ranty, but I just had all these thoughts that I kind of just wanted to get out. And, you know, it makes me sad because I do like the game at its core, and of course I want to see it succeed, but it's got so many rough spots, and it hasn't been fun to play. And Speci's video put a lot of that in perspective too, of like, yeah, I'm not going to what am I going to play for? What is the point of playing Core Constructed? To play for set championships for a playmat that, even if I won it, it's just going to sit on my shelf because it's not cool artwork? Or to get to the finals again and then lose, and now there's no second playmat, there's no pins to go after anymore. So I don't know. If you've stuck with it this far, I appreciate you watching. Let me know in the comments, hey, what are things maybe that I didn't mention or Speci didn't mention that you would want to see that has bummed you out? Or, yeah, my locals have shut down because people are falling out of the game. Or maybe your locals are thriving, and awesome. Keep that going strong. So I appreciate you watching so much. If you are going to Richmond this weekend, hope you have a blast. Good luck. Hope you do well. Till next time, take care.